Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new MSI Raider A18 HX A9W. This laptop isn't for the faint of heart. As you can see, it's absolutely massive. We've got an 18-inch display. In fact, it's using a 4K mini LED display. Well, actually, it's a little over 4K because we've got a 16:10 aspect ratio, up to 120 hertz, and the screen here does look amazing. The main reason I wanted to get my hands on this is because MSI did something a bit different from other companies out there. They actually paired up the all-new AMD Ryzen 9 9955HX 3D with the most powerful laptop GPU that you can get at the time of making this video, the nvidia RTX 5090. Needless to say, this thing can put down some really good performance, and when it comes down to it, this thing can pull a total of 260 watts with the GPU and CPU combined, and getting in a bit closer to this mini LED panel. Like I mentioned, it's an 18-inch 120Hz 16:10 display, 3840 by 2400, 100% DCI-P3, and it does support display HDR 1000. They've also added a per key RGB backlit SteelSeries keyboard, and with this we will use the SteelSeries software to control all of the RGB, but up front we've also got a light bar that can be controlled using MSI's Mystic Light software. When it comes to I/O, over here on the right hand side we've got two full-size USB 3.2 ports and a full-size SD card reader. Moving over to the right hand side, 3.5mm audio jack, another USB 3.2 port, and two 40 gig USB 4 ports. Round back, 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, HDMI 2.1, and our power input. By the way, this comes with a 400 watt power supply. And of course, when it comes to the overall specs here, like I mentioned, we've got that AMD Ryzen 9 9955HX 3D. This is a fire range chip, 16 cores, 32 threads. This will do up to 5.4 gigahertz. And since we've got an X3D chip here from AMD, we've got 144 megabytes of cache. You can add up to 96 gigs of DDR5 at 5600 with this. I've got 64 gigs installed in this system. Graphics are handled by the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5090 laptop GPU. We've got 24 gigs of GDDR7 VRAM, and the GPU alone can boost up to 175 watts, an 18-inch mini LED 120Hz display, aspect ratio of 16:10, we've got a resolution of 3840 by 2400, 100% DCI-P3, and it's display HDR 1000 certified. This laptop does come with a 1TB Gen 5 M.2 SSD, and we've got another slot in here that's unpopulated. It's a Gen 4 slot, Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4, 99 watt-hour battery, and of course, we're running Windows on this machine. Before we get into testing, I did want to give you a look at the internals, and remember, don't eat your laptop, or at least that tasty looking button cell battery inside. But once we pull this off, I mean, you can see we've got a massive cooling system here for that 9955HX and that RTX 4090. But a new thing you might notice is the fact that we've got a pipe for that Gen 5 M.2 SSD. So that's integrated into the whole cooling system. And with these Gen 5 SSDs, they offer some amazing speeds and they can get quite hot. With this setup here, we can continuously run this thing and it's not going to throttle on us. And to give you an idea about that Gen 5 speed, you can see here I've run a Crystal Disk Mark. This is absolutely ridiculous. And this was just the first run on that pre-installed M.2. Checking out some more performance benchmarks that I ran on this system, Geekbench 6 and this 9955HX 3D offer some great single-core and multi-core performance. Over 3,000 single and getting real close to a 20,000 score here with Geekbench 6 on a mobile CPU. I also ran Cinebench R24. Single core on this chip, we're up to 127, and you can see just from the list, it's beating everything from that M1 Max. And when it comes to multi-core, nothing on this list can really touch it with those 16 cores and 32 threads. We're up to 2,160. Here's 3D Mark Steel Nomad. We got a total score of 6,337, and our FPS was 63.37. Port Royal, just checking out some ray tracing performance, total score of 16,751 and a 77.55 FPS. And the final one we have here is Time Spy coming in with a very impressive 22,536. For a mobile setup, these are some really great synthetic scores, but now it's time to see how this thing can handle real-world gaming. Here's Cyberpunk 2077, 2560, 1600, ultra settings, no DLSS. Not bad at all. We're seeing an average of 89 FPS. And of course, we've got a much higher resolution display here, but we will need some DLSS, or if you don't mind using frame gen, you can really take the settings up. And just to give you an idea about that, here we are, same game, but we've upped the resolution and we've taken it to ray tracing overdrive. So of course, we did need to add some DLSS for multi-frame gen, but I'll give you a look. You can see ray tracing overdrive, X4 on that multi-frame gen, and we're now at 3840 by 2400. This is how we need to run it if we want to run ray tracing overdrive on that laptop 5090. Not bad, and I know a lot of people out there just don't like fake frames. Personally, I don't mind playing this without any ray tracing, and it'll do just fine, but I still wanted to show it off here. This is the only game we're going to be using any kind of frame generation with in this video. And the next one we have is God of War Ragnarok. 3840, 2400, Ultra, no DLSS. This is one of those games that just runs really well on a lot of systems. Very well optimized. One of my favorite PlayStation ports over to PC. I think they did an absolutely amazing job with this. I also had to test out my favorite arcade racer, Forza Horizon 5. We're at 3840 by 2400, Extreme Plus with no DLSS. And you might be wondering what Extreme Plus is. Basically, we've just gone into the settings at Extreme and taking ray tracing and a few other settings up because it actually doesn't all get maxed out at that Extreme preset. For Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, I just used the built-in benchmark, and we're not using DLSS. We're at 3840 by 2400, very high, and at the end of the benchmark, I was actually surprised to see that we had an average of 80 FPS on this system. And the final one we have here is Marvel Rivals. And with this, I did need to enable some DLSS. So we're at ultra settings, 3840 by 2400 with DLSS set to quality. Still not as much as I was really hoping out of this RTX 5090, but it's fully playable like this. And for the most part, I mean, if you're going to play a game like this, going down to the 1600p is going to be more than enough resolution. Another thing I always monitor while running these tests on these laptops are CPU and GPU temps. I use hardware info running in the background, and with this setup, we're in performance mode from Windows. Stock fan curve, and this can be adjusted from MSI Center, but we're just sitting like it is out of the box. Average CPU temps while gaming at 2400p were 78 degrees Celsius, and the maximum I recorded there was 86. So we didn't hit thermal throttle, and as for GPU temps with this RTX 5090 laptop version, 2400p gaming, we averaged 61 degrees Celsius, and we only hit a maximum of 68 degrees Celsius, which is much lower than I thought, given that, this GPU can boost up to around 175 watts in this laptop. So the cooling system that MSI is implemented here is working really well for this setup. So overall, really impressed with the performance here, but I kind of suspected we'd see some amazing performance out of this machine. I mean, just taking a look at the specs on paper, that AMD Ryzen 9 9955 HX 3D is no joke. And with that paired up with the nvidia RTX 5090, this thing should put down some great performance. And as we saw with gaming and the benchmarks, yeah, it definitely does. The newly overhauled cooling system here is great for the CPU and GPU combo, and I do love the fact that we've got that extra heat pipe going over to that Gen 5 SSD, so if you continuously writing or reading from it, you don't have to worry about it slowing down, and those Gen 5 speeds are absolutely ridiculous. Great selection of I/O, and I know there's some people out there wondering why we have no Thunderbolt 5 here, and that's because this is the AMD Ryzen version with that 9955 HX. We don't have USB 5 on the market, and I'm sure if it was already ready to go, MSI would have added it here, but they did give us those two 40 gig USB 4 ports. Personally, I do think that this is a desktop replacement, and even though, it's designed for gaming, you can get some work and AI done on this just fine with that RTX 5090. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you're interested in learning a little more about the MSI Raider A18 HX, I will leave links in the description. And if there's anything else you want to see tested on this machine, just let me know in the comments below. And like always, Thanks for watching.